Welcome to Inside Judicial Watch, a very special edition, the Mueller Report. The Mueller Report is finally in, and I'm pleased to have with me to discuss it, what went into it, the ramifications, where we go from here, the President of Judicial Watch, Tom. Tom,
thank you,
welcome.
Carter. Thank you.
In your statement on the Mueller Report, you said the long national nightmare is over, and President Trump has been vindicated. You also indicated that it was contrived in the first place. Where did this start? Where did it come from? How did this travesty come about? And what role did Judicial Watch, most importantly, play in exposing it?
Well, you know, it's kind of an odd situation because it's a great day or a great time because this grave assault on our Republican form of government has stopped. There was a coup attempt to try to overthrow the President of the United States, and the Mueller operation was part of that. Whether Mr. Mueller is never going to acknowledge that, but the most charitable interpretation is he was a tool of opponents of the President who were abusing their power by making up stuff to suggest illegal collusion with the Russians to sway our elections. So it's great that that's over. But what corruption behind the whole process? And we shouldn't be, we should be celebrating that the President is free of this illicit investigation, but there's got to be accountability for the corruption behind the investigation, the abuse of power that led to it. And, you know, going back, and I was thinking about what was it that kind of made us think there was something up here? And, you know, it was your typical government misconduct. Illegal leaks of classified information, targeting then at the time the incoming Attorney General Jeff Sessions and Michael Flynn. And it was classified information related to communications they had with the Russians. So this was intel information, the sacrosanct material that is never supposed to be released.
Never supposed to be out.
And certainly never supposed to be associated with an individual American. Exactly. Yet it was illegally leaked, and the media happily ran with it. And the allegation was the Russians were working with the Trump people. And, you know, now Mr. Mueller, after bringing really unprecedented resources to bear on investigating those allegations, has found there was no evidence of it. So that dossier, the allegations that the Russians had something on General Flynn, all of that is false. There was no evidence means none of that was true. And we had 2 years, at least, of investigations harassing the President of the United States, impeding the functions of the executive branch, distorting our government, and in many ways, it's now come to a close. The Democrats who are opposing President Trump will try to do what they can to push it along still. But you know, what a vindication for the President, but what an attack and an outrage on our body politic.
Vindication for the President, but a condemnation of the way our government was run by the deep state for the past over 2 years, beginning with, correct me if I'm wrong, the third debate when Hillary Clinton, you have said over and over again, this starts with Hillary Clinton. The third debate when Hillary Clinton accused Donald Trump out of nowhere of being a Russian puppet.
Well, that's right. That was the Fusion, that was her vendor, Fusion GPS, who compiled the dossier. Again, Mueller has said there's no evidence. So that dossier that everyone has pointed to as being legitimate and a legitimate basis for spy warrants on the President of the United States and then candidate Trump, there was no basis for it. So Hillary Clinton was behind the big lie.
Absolutely.
Certainly President Obama and Joe Biden and James Comey and Peter Strzok and Loretta Lynch and John Brennan and John Kerry, all the king's horses under President Obama. It was an all-hands-on-deck attack on then-candidate Trump, all based on a lie. Remember, it's difficult to overstate Mueller's conclusion in terms of its ramifications as to pointing at misconduct by Barack Obama and his people. So they were using this dossier to justify spying on President Trump. And Comey went so far as to confront then-candidate, President-elect Trump with the dossier with President Obama's approval.
Right.
And there was Mueller said there was no evidence. That means that that dossier was a sham. And it's what we've been saying. And, you know, one of the outrages here is that Mueller has been pursuing this fake investigation for, I guarantee you, a year longer than he needed to. In a sense, recall, those indictments he issued in the beginning of last year, the end of 2017, the beginning of 2018, on these core Russia issues, the DNC hacking, Democrat hacking, the Russia involvement through fake accounts in our campaign, election campaign, they found then that there was no collusion with any American. Why didn't it end then?
Exactly.
And and the harassment just continued. And frankly, as you pointed out in the beginning, Judicial Watch played a key role in standing against that corruption and defending our republic by doing an investigation and highlighting Mueller's abuses when few others in this city, this decrepit city, were.
Tom, I was just going to say, you said a key role. Many, many times over the course of the past 2 years, Judicial Watch played the only role in fighting this corruption. The only role in fighting this corruption. Judicial Watch, let's take it back from the beginning. What was the very first action Judicial Watch took that helped people understand, uh-oh, something is not cricket here, something's wrong here?
Well, I think one of the first lawsuits we sued for, one of the first lawsuits we filed, obviously we're highlighting the concerns we had prior to the lawsuit, but was for the documents that were leaked about General Flynn.
Right.
And the deep state has refused to give us anything since. And since then, we have filed at least 40 lawsuits.
40 lawsuits.
On this deep state effort to overthrow the president, including just the lawsuits recently on the coup discussions they had at the Justice Department and the FBI. And you know, it's not just filing lawsuits. We get the documents. You know, it's difficult to get the documents. That's why we have to sue. But what did Judicial Watch uncover? We uncovered the FISA warrant applications that included the shady dossier. First time FISA applications had ever been made public. We uncovered that Christopher Steele.
But back up 1 second. Not only do we uncover the FISA documents, as you say, first time ever, FISA, but also the fact, if I'm not mistaken, FISA judges didn't bother to have hearings.
That's right.
Didn't bother to have hearings.
Because we wanted the transcripts of the hearings.
Exactly.
And we sued for the transcripts. And after a runaround from both the courts and the Justice Department finally fessed up to Judicial Watch, not to Congress, not to the media, to Judicial Watch. Well, they had no hearings. So they had 4 FISA applications, the initial application and 3 renewals, targeting President Trump. We now know, based on no evidence, there was no evidence of collusion.
Nothing.
No evidence of collusion. And the FISA court never held one hearing on it. So they had 4 different judges just rubber stamped it, which is a scandal in and of itself. On top of that, we uncovered that Christopher Steele, the Clinton foreign spy working for Fusion GPS, met with the FBI 13 times in 2016 during the campaign. 11 of those times he was paid. So you had the FBI paying Steele at the same time the Clinton DNC operation was paying Steele. We also uncovered he was fired by the FBI.
That's collusion. That's collusion. From my opinion, that's collusion.
That's the collusion.
Yeah.
And then, then the FBI cuts him off. We found out that the FBI cut him off. We got the document showing he was fired as a confidential informant because he was doing what Fusion GPS does, which is leak to the media. They were shopping his dossier around to the media directly through hacks like Senator John McCain's guy. So that we now know is why the FBI let him go. But then we found that Bruce Orr of the Department of Justice, whose wife worked at Fusion GPS, we uncovered the documents that Orr communicated with this Clinton operative, Christopher Steele, and Glenn Simpson of Fusion GPS about 60 times. It was our documents, that our FOIA lawsuit, that showed the documentary evidence of the communications.
So Orr, at the FBI, an official at the FBI, whose wife...
At the Justice Department.
At the Justice Department, whose wife worked for Fusion, who came up with the phony dossier, were conspiring together.
That's right.
60 times they met.
That's right. There were 60 communications, at least. And then, going into the Mueller operation, we uncovered that Andrew Weissman, the number 2 at the Mueller operation, was a rabid anti-Trumper. He sent an email to Sally Yates, who was behind this hit job on General Flynn.
Right.
When Sally Yates refused to enforce the president's travel ban, she was a holdover attorney general, and Weissman said, you know, I'm in awe of you, and sent her an email.
I'm in awe of you. Weissman sent an email to Sally Yates after she refused to obey a presidential order telling her, I'm in awe of you. Then the next time we see Weissman, he is prosecuting the President of the United States.
That's right.
How fair is that?
And it turns out, according to the testimony the Congress took, that Orr had briefed Weissman on the shady dossier as well. And then you've got Andrew McCabe, the number 2 at the FBI. Key figure. He was acting FBI director for a time, and he was conflicted out because of his work, because of his wife getting a ton of money from Hillary Clinton's Terry McAuliffe. They're allies. He was governor of Virginia, but it's basically all the Clinton Inc. And he was involved in investigating not only Hillary Clinton, but President Trump. And, you know, the story was that he didn't need to recuse himself, but we exposed, through our request, that he ended up having to recuse himself, and that contrary to what we were being told publicly, he was involved in his wife's campaign while at the FBI. So more misconduct on the part of FBI officials. Again, isn't it amazing, as all these coincidences, all the misconduct seemed to inure to the benefit of Hillary Clinton,
precisely,
and to the detriment of President Trump. And Carter, we're not stopping, because all these lawsuits are ongoing, and people talk about now there's got to be accountability. Well, you know what? We're already halfway down the track doing this, because we're in court with dozens of lawsuits. We have documents coming in the next few weeks about Andrew Weissman's text messaging and emails about Hillary Clinton and President Trump. So we are well on our way to getting accountability for this deep state assault on our republic.
Tom, we have to, if you don't mind, we have to put Weissman into perspective here, because he was, according to the New York Times, he was Mueller's pit bull. He was hired for one reason, and that was to be vicious. And this was a man, and we have to say this, who his prosecution of Enron, his prosecution of Arthur Anderson, and his prosecution of Merrill Lynch in all 3 cases fell through. They had to let the people he prosecuted go because he had falsified information. And then Mueller chooses him to be his top aide in this travesty, in this inquisition.
Well, it just shows you in the Justice Department, despite your controversial activities or things that you know, in the case of Andrew Weissman, who the courts had sliced back, he was still a senior official at the Justice Department. You can appointed
by Mr. Ray, by the way.
Well, you know, this is the career civil service.
Exactly.
You know, at the Justice Department, we're all supposed to fall down in front of. And these are partisans. In the sense they're Democrat. This is not a question of I like Republicans better than Democrats. It's a factual issue.
Yes.
Most of the people in the Justice Department are Democrats. Many of them are activists. Mr. Mueller managed to hire virtually no one but Democrat activists who give money
19 Democrats
who give money to political campaigns of Democrats. You know, not everyone, you know, outside of Washington, most people don't give money to political campaigns. And certainly in the federal bureaucracy, to have, you know, was it an accident that you had all these Democratic donors targeting President Trump? It's a miracle. It's an absolute miracle that that it's been shut down as soon as it's been able to be shut down. And I think it has to do, in large measure, I'll give credit to President Trump for bringing in Attorney General Barr, who I suspect made it clear he would brook no craziness, further craziness by the Mueller operation. They already knew there was no collusion, so that was an abuse that he shut down quickly. And they've tried to smear the president by pretending they were agnostic on obstruction, and there was never any obstruction. And the Attorney General came in and made that clear. That was a garbage a garbage accusation. And what a great victory for the president. But we're not going to stop. We're not going to stop until we get accountability. And it was, as we started off at the beginning, it was all designed to protect Hillary Clinton. And now Hillary Clinton is being subject to discovery in Judicial Watch litigation over her email practices. We've got all these witnesses coming in. Our lawyers are deposing. So I'm glad everyone now seems to be interested in accountability over what went on, but Judicial Watch never took its eye off the ball.
Never.
We've been focusing on the Clinton email issue, the related national security scandals there, figuring out what went on, and certainly from the moment of Mueller's appointment, we knew something was bad was happening, and we began demanding accountability and suing for information to highlight the deep state attack on not only President Trump, but this is something that all Americans have to understand. This was not an assault on the president personally. This was an assault on our constitutional order. And the question is, were we going to allow bureaucrats and political operatives to overthrow a president? And if that were to happen, that's when the republic ends.
That's when
and we stopped it. We played a key role in stopping it.
Played a key role in stopping it because we go back, let's keep in mind, Judicial Watch goes all the way back to when Strzok and Page and McCabe and that gang, the skinny group as they called themselves, were working to undermine the election.
Yeah.
They just didn't start after Trump got in. We discovered the emails that they were trying to undermine the election.
Right. And remember, there would have been no Clinton email investigation, even the sham investigation the FBI undertook, if Judicial Watch hadn't uncovered the fact that there were Clinton emails that she had been hiding and then later destroyed. It was all because of Judicial Watch. And it's really, I'm president of Judicial Watch, obviously, so I'm going to promote our actions here.
Rightly
but
so.
I mean, but it really is amazing, isn't it? That Judicial
amazing.
Watch has had this impact on history, and it has taken this leadership role in this great nation in holding our government to account. And something we're proud to be able to do, and it's gratifying to see sometimes things work out for the better, however imperfectly.
Let's go back to those emails, Hillary's emails, for a second. How shocked were you when Comey stood up, I think July 5th, right, and said, essentially, she did nothing wrong. She did nothing wrong. How shocked were you when we had already uncovered the fact that she released classified information?
Or you mishandled it, that's right.
Yeah.
And she did it, and she had been warned that her system was subject to breaching because of security issues. So she was warned. So there was that intent. Believe it or not, I agreed with Hillary on James Comey at the time, that he shouldn't have come out there and tried to have his cake and eat it too, corruptly exonerating her,
right,
while dragging her name through the mud by releasing information from his investigation. I mean, that isn't the job of the FBI.
No.
And I criticized Comey at the time for doing it. I mean, I understand that Hillary got the real big benefit of not being prosecuted, as probably she should have been. But this is the big test now for Attorney General Barr. Mueller's done. So that distortion of his Justice Department is over. And is it going to come? Are we going to restore the Justice Department? Is he going to reassure the American people that people like Hillary Clinton won't be protected? Will he do an honest investigation of the Hillary Clinton email issue now? The national security issues, the pay-to-play that Judicial Watch uncovered? I don't, because right now the Justice Department has been silent as to what happened beforehand. Are they going to ratify what the Obama Justice Department did? This is a big test, and it struck me in speaking and watching what people are saying and communicating with Judicial Watch, how many Americans want accountability here.
Absolutely.
This is why President Trump was elected, because the swamp way is, we know there are corrupt politicians, but if they lose an election, they get a get out of jail free card.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Judicial Watch doesn't take that approach, and I think President Trump was elected because the American people didn't like that approach. So I think the Justice Department needs to do a credible investigation of Hillary Clinton, or in the least say, you know what, we're not going to do anything. It's done, and we're not going to do anything. But the silence can't be abided by anymore.
Well, even if the Justice Department says we're not going to do anything, Judicial Watch is still in court with Hillary
Yeah,
Clinton,
that's
right?
exactly right.
I mean, that's the key.
I mean, the court, the Justice Department, we know how the Justice Department is, but the courts are tired of the corruption. At least some courts are, and that's why we've been granted discovery, because the court thought that they were trying to fool him into shutting down the case before the Clinton emails were uncovered. He wanted to know if the FOIA was being was the reason that Hillary Clinton set up the system to avoid FOIA, and he wants to know if there are any other emails out there. You know, the sorts of things that Americans want to know and want accountability for. So at least there's one court that's allowing us to take testimony. It's limited. We can't take it. You know, we can't question everyone we want, but it's 11, 12 witnesses that have to be questioned under oath. So people say, what about the Clinton emails? Well, Judicial Watch is doing it. We're doing the heavy lifting on it. It's extraordinary.
We're doing the heavy lifting. We're not going to stop. And we have, we are the ones, I want to make it clear again, Hillary mishandled classified information. She did so in emails that she hid from the American people. And why, in your opinion, and I know it's opinion, I'm asking for your, why did she hide all her emails from the American? She hid hundreds of thousands of emails from the American people. Well, why would she do that?
You know, people say, I don't know, because she didn't want anyone to know what she was up to. People say, why, what was she hiding? My response is Hillary Clinton was hiding everything.
Everything.
She didn't want one email to come out unless you had to go through her lawyer. And that's evident, you know, and we found her out. And that effort to obstruct the people's right to know was blown up by Judicial Watch. Now, she did destroy half of the emails she improperly took or stole from the State Department. The FBI was only able to recover about 5,000 of them. But of the emails that she destroyed or tried to hide, we uncovered just recently there was classified material on that. Why isn't the Justice Department doing something about it? Is Comey still running the Justice Department? Is Loretta Lynch still running the Justice Department? Attorney General Barr needs to let us know. He did the right thing for President Trump and the rule of law. Hopefully he does the right thing for Hillary Clinton and the rule of law as well.
One final point. In Mueller's report, where Mueller wrongly says that the collusion investigation is concluded, he wrongly says it because we're not concluding.
That's
Judicial
right.
Watch is not concluding it. But the other half of it, he says we cannot exonerate the president for obstructing justice. Now, I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think that's the role of an investigator to announce to the world that that we can't exonerate somebody. That'd be like if he woke up tomorrow and said, we can't exonerate Carter Clues for burning down his neighborhood in York, Pennsylvania. What does that mean?
Yeah.
Is he going to go person by person in America now and tell us whether he has a crime? How does that happen?
Well, that's an abuse of office again.
That's an
by
abuse
the
of
Mueller
office.
special counsel operation. He should never have, and that's why I always objected to the very idea of a Mueller report. The idea that you would have these lawyers for the Justice Department opining on the appropriateness of activity by the President of the United States as president. The obstruction of justice case had everything to do with the president commenting on an investigation that we now know was falsely accusing him of treason,
right?
And exercising his powers as president to fire someone that no one really liked, James Comey, and who had ethical and
everybody
legal
wanted fired.
Yeah. So what, does the Justice Department get to opine on the president's firing another Justice Department employee? The president runs the Justice Department. And the Justice Department can't be hijacked to write another dossier on the president. And that's why I think there should have never been, quote, a Mueller report, other than, hey, we didn't indict someone because there was no evidence to indict him, like they said about the collusion. And they should have kept they should have kept themselves quiet as to the obstruction issue. But thankfully, Barr saw through that charade and said, you know what? It's not even a close question as to whether there was obstruction. There was no obstruction of justice, and to suggest there was is a smear, which again goes to the outrageousness of the Mueller operation and the president saying we can't allow that to happen to another president.
Good.
You know, I know others are calling for a special prosecutor. You know, we don't need special prosecutors. We all know where the bad guys are and what they've done. Let's focus on getting prosecutions done rather than creating another bureaucracy that will have us talking about this 5 years from now as to whether anyone responsible for this constitutional carnage will be indicted.
Prediction: McCabe, Strzok, Page, Orr, Baker, the whole lot is anything ever going to be done to bring them to justice for what they perpetrated at the Justice Department?
I think Strzok faces significant legal issues, criminal issues. I think Mr. McCabe faces some legal issues. And I don't know if the case that he lied is as strong as some of us seem to think on our side. The accountability is going to be tough to do. The asking the Justice Department to investigate itself, even if you've got someone who's seemingly competent like Barr demanding action, I don't know. But look, there was a cabal that targeted the president, and this Justice Department and this FBI, they need to clean house. And whether they do it or not, we got to take another look at the Justice Department and the FBI and see where they are in terms of, do they have too much power? Do their wings need to be clipped? Do we have to have a different approach? Because I think we can all agree the Justice Department has an outsized role in our federal government. And they don't think they're answerable to the president, they don't think they're answerable to Congress, and certainly they don't think they're answerable to citizens like Judicial Watch. That's why we always have to sue them. And that, no one elected the Justice Department to run the country, and you can see under Mueller, they were trying to.
Absolutely. Tom, thank you very much. Thanks for being here on Inside Judicial Watch, and most of all, thank you for the leadership you provided so that Judicial Watch could expose what this whole gang was up to in trying to bring down a president of the United States.
Well, and thank you for that. But look, we've got a great team here at Judicial Watch, and we have hundreds of thousands of supporters, and we can't do any of this work without the support of the American people. The American people want this done, and we're lucky to be able to figure out a way to give them some accountability.
And we're going to do it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Carter.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us in Inside Judicial Watch, a special edition on the Mueller report. We'll see you next week.